If there's one thing that PC gamers love doing, it's modding characters like Shrek and CJ into everything and anything they can, sometimes even Thomas the Tank Engine. But what if someone made a game where Thomas is the main character and he's a giant spider train set out to kill you? Well, 4 years later, I finally decided to pick up that game as a part of my attempt to clear my backlog, and the question remains, is this game all gas and no brakes, or does the train get derailed before it even can get going? I'm HatTopGaming, and just like always, we'll be answering that question by going over the story, gameplay, and performance on the Steam Deck before giving the game a rating out of 10. And make sure to stick around to the end of the video for a sneak peek of my next review, but with all that out of the way, let's begin. Starting off with the story, we are thrusted right into the middle of it. We are a nameless monster hunter taking a boat out onto this island where Charles, the main character, is mysteriously appeared. His origins are unclear, but we learn that a mining company, supposedly looking for gold, seems to have been directly involved in his appearance on the island. We go around the island meeting folks who are not only aware of who we are, but the plan set in place. So with that being set in place, they give us missions to complete that will aid us in our attempt to take down Charles. We also find a handful of notes around the island to give us further detail as to what is going on and how this all could have started. But even with the notes and tidbits of dialogue you get from NPCs, the story is pretty bare bones and doesn't really try to explain itself properly. The story exists solely to create some level of mystique. The whole story essentially boils down to this. You gotta collect some eggs that are scattered around the island, place them in the middle, that will eventually trigger a death match between you and Charles. While the game doesn't really do much to push the story or explain why any of this really works, the story kind of knows what it's doing and just kind of gives you these various objectives just to keep the thing going. Moving on over to gameplay now, it's twofold. The main thing you'll be doing is going around the island, doing fetch quests, and that's really just it. The entire game is just meet up with the character, they tell you to grab something for them, you drive over to the location, you run over, find whatever it is that you need, hopefully don't get killed by Charles or any bandits that are around, and then you bring it back to them and they'll give you some scrap metal in return, so you can upgrade your train. That's the entire game. Upgrading the train is really simple as once you get the necessary amount of scrap, you just pick between upgrading the total health of the train, the damage you can put out, or the armor of the train so that way you can take less damage. Combat is very basic as you unlock up to 4 different guns, but frankly they're all kind of useless as they either take up too long to reload or overheat too quickly. Now, the biggest draw I imagine for most folks is simply just dealing with Charles while out in the open world, doing quests and whatnot. And I would agree. But here's how those fights go. Either you're caught off guard out in the open and get killed since there's no way to outrun Charles, or while you're on the way to your next stop, he'll spawn in randomly and you have to beat him back until he gives you the chase. But Charles scales with you, meaning you never really are in danger unless you just keep letting your guns overheat like an idiot, or your train is just not at full capacity, so you're just constantly getting hit by him because you're not going fast enough. The biggest selling point of the game really just isn't all that fun. Now, the ironic part about dying is that it doesn't really even have any real consequences. You lose about 3 scrap upon death, and that's it. You just respawn back on the train. You're far more likely to get killed by cultists or mob enemies, if anything, as you have no real way to defend yourself on foot, and your only recourse is to just run back to the train. You can lead them back to the train and use your guns on them at least, but just make sure you create some space so that you can get some shots off first. You do have a lean mechanic, but not only does it feel useless, but it essentially is. The point is to be able to peek around corners without getting seen, but enemies are dumb and blind, so as long as you're not making direct eye contact with them, they're not going to be able to see you. Meanwhile, they can also see you from a mile away, so it really just comes down to which one you run into, I guess. Moving on to performance now, the game was rough on Steam Deck. Now, I'm not sure if this is a coding issue, optimization issue, or something else, as it's rated Steam Deck verified, which, I mean, yeah, you can say that given the parameters of it, but it just runs poorly. The game can't keep a steady frame rate to save itself at all, and while there really aren't any true bugs per se, the game is just janky. The guy who made this game cut so many corners, you could probably turn the square into a circle. Animations are stiff, cutscenes are bare bones, NPCs look ugly, there's no real weight to anything you do. It feels like the game struggles to load in the world faster than your train gets there. There's a fog/hazy look to the game, which, while I'm sure it's intentional, it doesn't really look very good and is clearly being used more of a masking agent. The game runs on Steam Deck, and that's the best thing I can say about it. I didn't really deal with any bugs aside from the erratic frame rate, which never got better. From start to end, it just never stabilized. The game also just doesn't look good. Even as I was playing on high settings, it was absolutely tearing through the Steam Deck battery. I have no idea why. There's nothing going on in the open world, NPCs just staying around, the majority of the map is barren with lightly covered forest, and I know for a fact Charles just spawns in randomly because there's no other way for him to just suddenly appear in the other half of the island to try to attack you as often as he does. So he's also not moving around the open world. I really don't know what's taking up so much battery life. I'm not gonna lie, guys. Games like this do kind of wear me out at times, as once you realize there's nothing special about them, it just kind of feels like work. So sometimes when I'm looking for a quick burst of energy, I think of Dubby Energy Drink, today's sponsor. If you're looking for an energy drink that fits all lifestyles and has zero sugar, no artificial dyes, unique creative flavors, and you don't have to worry about crashing after it's worn off, I highly recommend you go check out W Energy Drink today. You can use my code HatTopGaming for 10% off your first order. Not only is it a great way to get a boost midday when you need it, but when you use my code, it also helps support the channel. Thanks again to W Energy Drink for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get to the final verdict on Choo-Choo Charles. Okay, so in the end, how did I feel about the game? Well, I will say they didn't lie about the premise, emphasis on the premise, as yes, you do build up your shitty little train in an effort to take down Charles. Did they do it well? No, not really. It's crazy this game took me 2.6 hours to complete. Like, I knew the game was short, but I really just blasted through it without even trying. I unlocked 19 of the 25 achievements, and really, if you want to 100% the game, it's really easy to do so. The only hard achievement, I guess, would be beating the game in hardcore mode. This is one of those games that gets recognition both due to its standout character in Charles, and for how short and shallow the game really is. Now, I'm not sure if the game runs better on other hardware, but at best, I would give the game maybe one more point for that if it does. It, it really just feels like an unengined slop game built on generic assets that just so happen to have made enough noise on the internet to get people interested in it. I mean, I was there when the original buzz for this game started because it went viral on Twitter. So if it wasn't for that, I don't even think I'd be playing this game today, honestly. Now, I'm not going to spoil the ending, but I will say it was rather underwhelming and didn't really make a whole lot of sense. While there are side quests you can do, you're essentially forced to do them as you need to upgrade your train to the near max level in order to beat Charles in the final confrontation. I know that since that's what happened to me. The game is not worth 20 bucks, not even close. I got in a Fanatical bundle years ago, and that's probably the only way I would have ever bought this game, because even if the $4 price tag went on sale, that would just be too much for me. Also, they did a sequel bait at the end of the game, and honestly, it just comes off as a bad joke. I'm going to give this game a 5 out of 10. I wasn't bored or upset while playing the game, so I can't outright call it bad, but the game as a whole comes off as half baked and doesn't really even come close to what it could have or should have been. If you want to play this game, go right ahead. It's short and pretty cheap nowadays, but I do not recommend you waste your time with this one. There's nothing of note going on here, and there's better games out there to spend your money on and on your time on. But that's going to do it for me today, guys. Hope you all enjoyed today's review. Pretty short episode today, as there really wasn't a whole lot to go over, but I'm interested to hear from all of you as to whether or not you actually played this game before. For those of you who haven't, let me know, did I encourage or discourage you from playing the game? If you have any questions, comments, or opinions you want to share, make sure to leave them down in the comment section down below. I'm HatTopGaming. Thank you once again for tuning in. Make sure to like, subscribe, and we'll see you all later. Peace.